edition of Beyond the Bell. So we're going to start today's show just a little different, okay? Big day in the markets, a lot of opportunity, some really cool things going on. We're going to get to that. But, we have these moments. Some of them we recognize as they're happening. Some of them we don't quite understand until much later on, right? Where the direction that we're going in our lives is either questioned or affirmed. And I had one of the latter today, okay? I won't go into too many details, all right? And because they don't apply to you guys watching this show, right? But somebody very close to me lost their job in a mass layoff today, okay? And that sucks, right? That's bad. Okay, and we see a lot of stories like that especially in the tech sector, in some other things as well. And so, as far as viewers of this show are concerned, what does that mean for you? Okay, what it means is that for me, this showed me that I was on the right path today. Right now, this individual friend of mine going to be fine. Okay, high demand field. Very competitive salaries, going to eventually be fine. Might be a rocky couple of weeks. They're going to be fine. But it always, so many of my friends are in the trading world, right? Or people that I've known or people that I've worked with or worked for over the years. And today I realized I don't have that fear, right? Why do we get into trading? Forget. And I want to use another F word here, but I'm not going to because I try to keep this a PG to PG-13 show. Forget the cars. Forget the house. Forget any of that garbage. Okay? Why do I do what I do? Why do I work to help you guys get to the spot where I am? One single beautiful word. Freedom. Okay? From the moment I began my trading career, I said to myself, after a series of very frustrating situations in the public sector, which we don't have time or energy to get into right now, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I refuse to put my life, my livelihood, and the things that I want to do in the hands of somebody else. And especially somebody who, in a lot of situations has much less of a clue what's going on than I do. Okay. Now, I've worked at various places, on the education side, right? I worked for a major brokerage for a couple of years. I loved every second of that. This show, working with some of the guys at Blue Sky, I love this. Great effing team here at Blue Sky, right? But I do this because I enjoy it. Little extra income, right? But I've always had the option in the education side of things to walk away at any given point, and have at various points in the past when the juice isn't worth the squeeze, the frustration isn't worth the extra income, and I'll take some time inevitably and focus just on my trading, and then enter back into this space because I love working with people, and it's a message that everybody needs to hear, guys. Honest to God, if you're, I mean, don't get me wrong. I drive a nice car, okay, that I paid cash for. That's wonderful, okay? But it's that freedom that is what we're working towards. And it's more valuable than any car, than any house, than any piece of jewelry, than any collectible, than any experience, than any vacation, than any flight, than any yacht, than anything, okay? Even some of these high-priced, CEOs are tied to a board, right? They answer to a board, or they answer to shareholders. And we don't answer to anybody but ourselves. Now, obviously, if you have a spouse, kids, whatever, you're part of a family. That's something that's they're your stakeholders, and you should at least report to them from time to time. Especially if you're married, I imagine your spouse would want you to report to him or her at some point, right? But why do we do this, guys? Why do we, I look back my first couple of years of trading, right? And moments where I sat, and you guys have all had these, whether physically or emotionally, where you sit at the edge of your chair, you put your head in your hands and say, I don't know if I can effing do this. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know. And guys, I'm here to tell you, stick on this path. Now, that doesn't mean if you failed an eval today and all this stuff, that doesn't mean you just reload and you start right back out doing what you were doing tomorrow. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay? This business is no different than any other skill out there. You have to do the work. That is non-negotiable. That is not optional. Now, I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe that's, I'm not going to talk about that hack Malcolm Gladwell and his 10,000 hours, right? Maybe that's 500 hours of looking at charts. Maybe it's 1,000. Maybe it's, a year of struggling. Maybe it's 2 years of struggle. I don't know what that means. Everybody's path follows the same guidelines and the same, trail markers, but it takes us a different amount of time for everybody. Okay? And there's no system, there's no person, there's no, so many people think that, and I don't care who it is, their guy's going to win in November and their life's going to be so much better. There's no hero coming to rescue you. It's on you. Now, there's great places like Blue Sky. That's why I don't charge $10,000 for mentorships when I do things like that, like some other companies out there, right? But I'm here to tell you guys, when it comes to the freedom that trading provides, I can promise you, outside of, maybe meeting the love of your life or starting a family, those moments that are very, very precious, outside of all those, there is nothing you will do in your life that will be more rewarding and more important than becoming a successful and a consistently profitable trader. I can promise you this. There are no guarantees in this business except that one. Stick it out, keep working, do that extra half hour after your real job is done. Look at a couple more charts, game plan for the next day, paper trade, market replay, whatever I don't know specifically what you need, but keep at it. And you will get there. And I promise you, when this happens to somebody that you care for, you'll not only will you be able to be in a position to help them until they get back on their feet, but you'll be in a position to provide yourself with the security, the freedom that you could have never dreamed about before you got into trading. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate you guys humoring me. With that in mind, guys, let's talk about the markets and let's get into the big picture. All right, guys, so we talked about on yesterday's show. This is ES. We said we were flagging out up here. All right, little flag pattern. Maybe even a little bit of a pendant going on here if you want to ignore some of the tails here. But bottom line is what I said, if we weren't able to break out in this selling tail, right? We didn't see this necessarily in the NQ. This selling tail was our first signal that maybe we needed to go try the lower levels, right? So 5,100, this area here was kind of first level of support when it comes to the ES. Now we're a little bit below that, okay? But we did rally here in these last few minutes of the market, okay? And I apologize. Obviously, I wasn't watching things tick by tick today. But if we can get back up here as we move into tomorrow, that is sort of our next line to reconfirm a bullish sentiment. And I said yesterday, guys, and you can go back and look the tape, and I took a screen grab and put it in the Blue Sky Discord. We called this move down, and now, for me right now, and again, listen, not every big thesis we talk about in the markets is actionable, right? Now, I happen to have a couple of nice trades today. Made back everything I lost yesterday almost twofold, okay? But my thesis is now that we're holding to move back towards highs. I'm not ready to say we're going to new all-time highs yet. Maybe ask me tomorrow, all right? Tune into tomorrow's show. But this happens to be what I think is going to happen tomorrow. Now, if we test these lows in the overnight, in the Asian session, and the European session, that'll definitely be something that will change my mind. But right here, and again, this candle has a little time left, so we can't necessarily make any calls off here. But if this candle remains with a very long buying tail, right, this is about, almost 20 points, I think we're going to break back out of this zone and move higher. Let's look at the NQ and kind of back that up, right? So very similar pattern in the NQ. Sort of this flag pattern, although we don't have a long selling tail, right? We didn't have that like we did in the ES. But we did head down. Now, I'm not sure why this level is so... This really needed to be a little more down here. Pardon me for just adjusting on the fly. That's a little better. So you can see we're right in this zone, right? And again, we attempted to break through the zone. And again, keep in mind, I'm going to do a quick aside here. When you have zones of consolidation, okay, price action sort of bouncing around through here. If you break out, the strongest breakout pattern is a break, retest of the upper level of that zone, and go. Break, retest, and go. However, if you wander back into this zone, maybe not to the tick, but at least a little bit, the probabilities favor a test of the midpoint of that zone. And if you get below that, the probabilities favor a test of the lower end of this zone. So what we just saw here, guys, look at what happened. We broke out, but we couldn't hold. We moved back into this zone. We have now tested and surpassed the midpoint of this zone. And again, this is both art and science. So for me, as we move into the Asian session, I would expect a test of the high of this zone. Now, maybe we bounce back off there and head below, right? Maybe we finally break down and move back towards that 17,700 level, which was basically a magnet for the better part of a week, okay? But this is specifically what I'm looking at heading into tomorrow. So as we sit here, we've got this zone here. I expect us to go test this upper level zone. Maybe not tomorrow, but as we get towards the end of the week. It would not shock me as if we, I don't know if we get all the way back up here, but it is only Tuesday. We've got 3 days left in the market. So for this week, maybe, and we have non-farm payrolls on Friday. So good jobs reports combined with some market stability at this particular level, and I think we could head back up. So let's see if that gets us to tomorrow. All right, I want to catch up on. Yeah, thank you to our team back at the home office in Wichita, Nebraska, to posting up this poll. If you were red or green today, would you kindly smash that like button? That's a loaded phrase right there. All right, so I want to catch up on questions because I kind of got on my soapbox at the beginning of the show, so I want to make sure we respond. So let's go ahead and open our trader mailbag. I don't have any emails today, but so that will open the floor to those of you. And guys, let me just revisit earlier. We didn't announce a giveaway today. We're not doing a giveaway today, but you guys showed up anyway. So a little bit of what I said earlier is preaching to the choir, okay? But keep showing up. Now, I don't just mean to this show, although I hope you tune in every day. But guys, there's a number of free. I'm speaking at a free event next week. I'll give you guys information on that on tomorrow's show. Okay, completely free event featuring 28 different traders speaking on every asset class and just about every strategy you can think of. Okay, and no, I don't expect you to attend all 8 hours in 3 straight days of that, right? But looking at the schedule, finding you guys should always attend at least 4 to 5 hours of webinars per month, right? Now, yes, these webinars next week, it's going to be people, talking about a lot of things, and then, they're probably going to want you to join their community or buy one of their courses and stuff, and that's fine. You don't have to always do that, but at the same time, guys, there's going to be knowledge given away. So the knowledge is only given to those that show up, right? The old saying, decisions are made by those who show up. Same thing with knowledge. You don't show up to events like this, if you don't listen to Mike trade in the morning, if you don't go to these types of events, you're never going to learn and you're never going to get better. Okay. Yeah, eventually, can you figure it out on your own? Sure, if you have thousands of dollars in 5 years. That seems to be about the average of the completely self-taught traders that I've worked with over the years. But there's all this knowledge out there. The guys, Mike's live trading in the morning. These are completely free, right? You don't have to. I recommend you be a blue sky customer, but you don't have to be. Some of the best, listen, this is just me speaking very modestly, but right, between live trading in the morning and this show, this is some of the best free education that there is out there. Not that there's not others, but, this is, again, the knowledge is only given to those who show up, so make sure you keep showing up, all right? So if you're your first time tuning in for the show, I hope you keep coming back. So let me catch up on the questions. What is the full name of the host speaking now? My name is Matt. Hi. Let's see. What do we got? Oh yeah, no, that's not wasn't meant as like an anti-capitalist. I trade the markets. I'm about as capitalistic as they get. I just, part of that is wanting that freedom for yourself and not having to worry about like again, it's everybody thinks, oh, I just need this, I need that promotion at work, or I need this political candidate to win, or I need this or that, and my life's going to be fine, and that's just really not the situation. But when you have this level of control over your day to day. Like I honestly, I remember, this past fall, I was going to my girlfriend and I took a little trip for a couple weeks, right? And I just remember I wasn't doing this show yet, right? I was just doing some occasional stuff with Blue Sky, and doing my own trading, working with a couple of clients, and so we decided to leave for a couple of weeks, right? And I remember she's like, well, okay, I got to talk to my boss with here. I got to file out my PTO request. I got to do this, that. I got to make sure this person's covering for me on this days. I got to make sure this person's covering for me on this days. But it was like literally she had like 3 paragraphs of things that needed to be done. Me, I said, hey guys, I'll be back in a couple of weeks. That was it. That was all I did. Right. So that extends beyond, again, we get so focused on the financial, which listen, we're here to make money. If you're not here to make money, get out of this business. But we tend to ignore some of those broader themes, and especially I know a bunch of traders who make some money and then just end up spending it on things, and they're right back where they it gets into a cycle. But that's a whole different thing. We don't have time for it today. 62% green. That's outstanding. That is outstanding. Okay. Do you trade news events or stay out of the market? I stay out because of the high volatility equals risk. Chris, that's actually not a bad idea, right? So I just let's give an example of like FOMC, right? I think we're still a few weeks away from the next FOMC. I won't talk about like payrolls on Friday because that's a pre-market event. Generally, I do not trade for about 30 minutes after a major news event, right? I like to see the initial move. Very often we're seeing the initial move on things like CPI, on FOMC, on all that kind of stuff. The initial move tends to get retraced, and in fact, you usually see a big move in the opposite direction of that initial move, right? So, so I usually give things about a half hour. Honestly, guys, like I did great today. It was a very, very good trading day for me. But I actually prefer days like we saw last week, right? Like these big, about 400 point day today, more than that. 400 plus point day in the NQ, like that's great, right? Because you can, you don't have to be as precise on some of your entries when you get these big moves, and one thing just kind of leads to another. And like I said, sloppy trading can almost be rewarded on days like today. But this is one of the 20% days, right? One of my mentors when I first started said something that has stuck with me to this day. And this was even just as a swing trader when I first started. But she said, there's 80% days and 20% days. 80% of the days the market behaves a certain way, right? Normal ATRs, trading within a range, but plenty of opportunities within that range. And the 20% like today where things are just batshit crazy, right? And it's tough to design strategies for days that don't happen that often, right? I design my strategy for the 80% days. Now, do they work on days like today when we get a solid intraday trend? Yeah, they absolutely do. But I'm designing now yesterday was a 20% day as well. There was just next to no movement, within the indexes and overall, right? So the last 2 days are 20% days. Sometimes they happen in big chunks like this. And maybe it's not 80-20, maybe it's 75-20. But you understand the point that I'm making, okay? So for me, very often, Chris, high volatility events lead to 20% days, or even you want to call them 20% hours. So I want to work within normal market conditions because that's where I've designed my strategies. Again, not that they can't work on days like today. They absolutely did. But I am more excited to see a day. Give me a good... instead of a 400 directional point day on the NQ, you give me a good day where it's in an 80-point range top to bottom, and it bounces between +1 standard dev and -1 standard dev on the VWAP. You give me one of those days, and I'll kill it, and have repeatedly, right? So again, we look at days like today, and we assume everybody should have made a ton of money today, and again, that's if you were short at any point today, you probably made money. But what about tomorrow when we just go back to an 80% day? We have a nice 80 to 100 point range. Maybe we don't move straight up and down, but we get, do one of those. And, so I hope that answers your question. I have a tendency to answer simple questions with long drawn out answers. Yeah, guys. And as the bot reminds you, I love to see those bells in the chat. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. And that's how you get notified whenever we do one of these shows. And for any other events we end up doing here on YouTube, that gives you the opportunity to be among the first to know. So when we do giveaways, it gives us the opportunity, or it gives you the opportunity to be here and make sure you're all signed up for those. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Any other questions, guys? As long as I got you guys in the chat. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. You take advantages. Somebody sitting on the chat right now has a question they don't want to ask. They're afraid to ask. I don't know why that is. Maybe they think it's very simple. Maybe they don't quite know the right way to phrase that. But, guys, closed mouths don't get fed in life in general, especially not in this business, right? So you have the opportunity. You've got somebody on your screen in front of you live who's done this for almost 10 years, who's gotten very good at this in the past several years, who, has a background in teaching and coaching that predates my, time as a trader by almost 15 years. And, so now is the opportunity to ask any question. Now, does that mean I'm always going to have some great insightful answer and everything, it's going to, no, of course not. But you won't know unless you ask. I can see you. I can see you on the other end. You're thinking, what are good instruments to trade when being on Asian time? So of course you have to ask me one that I don't trade the Asian markets. I don't trade the overnights. I'm not one of those, obviously, as you said, you're going over there. So that's going to be your normal market times. I'm not one of those that if I wake, in fact, I had a horrible storm here in the Chicago area last night, tons of thunder, lightning, wind, tornadoes, not near me, thankfully, but, about 60 miles west of me. And, so I woke up I was up from about 2 to 4 this morning. Too many traders that I know, they're up at 2 to 4. Oh, shoot, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get on my computer. I'm going to see if there's any opportunity. I'm not like that. I want, guys, if I don't have like a coaching session or a client event or anything after this show, I go upstairs. I make sure my trading journal is all caught up. And then usually by 5 o'clock, computers are off. This lights in the studio here are down, and I'm done for the day. Now, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes there's some extra stuff to do. I've got a couple big events next week I'm prepping for. So, but that ideally, I'm not one of those people who tries to trade that time. So as far as the Asian markets, I honestly, it's just trial and error. And also, I don't know your trading strategy or style or what you like to do. But I would say don't oversize to start with. It's going to be a lower ATR. It's going to be slower going movement. So don't say, well, I'm just going to try 5 minis and make 10 points. No, start small. But yeah, probably something like in the NQ, maybe risking 10 points to make 15. That's a tough proposition during the normal market hours because things are whipping around so much. But maybe that's an appropriate risk reward. I don't know. Again, that's not something I have a lot of experience with, or but that's the type of, maybe take your general expectations of trades in terms of their movement and cut them in half to start with, or maybe even 2/3. If you're expecting 50 points of movement, try to just get down to 18, right? Like, it's all trial and error with that kind of stuff. But the indexes are very liquid. They're always going to, even if they don't have movement, they're always going to have some degree of volume in them, probably the bonds as well. So just it's just trial and error. How can you say today was green as it was 304% red? Well, if it was 304% red, I'm looking right now, the NQ was 1.63% red. Green, I'm referring to the P&L in my account. So if you're a green or red day, that means like if you got short at the open and closed out right before the close, I don't care if you had 1 micro or 5 minis, you made a lot of money today. So your account was green. The markets were red. Yes, the markets were very red. And if you were trying to catch the falling knife all day, right, and every small sign of a bounce, you were just jumping in long, you probably got ate up pretty hard today. So you would be red today along with the markets. So, Miriam, I hope that answers that. It's, when I say I was green or red, I'm referring to the number in my, the P&L in my account, not the markets. Yes, the markets were very red today. As far as questions on Blue Sky accounts, Tina, I'm just I just help out and do this show and stuff. I'm not an employee. I would direct that in the Discord. If it's procedural questions or account related questions, I'd go to the help section. I have no idea but guys, honestly, if if that account is what you're looking for, grab it. right? There's no, you grab it and trust me, you grab it and pass it and turn that into a real brokerage account in the next 2 or 3 months and make several withdrawals. You're not going to care if you paid 200 or 300 or 400 or 500 for that account when you've withdrawn $5,000, right? So it's all about opportunity cost, right? I know somebody said, well, I'm waiting for the first 50% sale. Well, maybe that's 8 months from now, right? And in the meantime, if you really know what you're doing, think of the money you can make in 8 months, right? I keep meaning to go back and show you guys my February journal, and I'll do that maybe in the next couple of days. I will do that in the next couple of days on this show. But, I think of the opportunity cost for an extra $100 or $200 when, if you know what you're doing and you make it to the brokerage stage and you're able to 6 months from now, there's no reason if you're a competent trader, you shouldn't be able to make it to the brokerage stage and withdraw 5 figures, right? And so you're gonna wait to do that over $100. I mean, I know, guys, and if that's honestly, if a sale like that is the difference between you being able to afford an account or not being able to afford an account, I would encourage you to maybe take a couple of months and save a little. Like I said, I don't, if you have your eye on a particular account, I don't care if it's a 25 regular or the $200,000 static. Before you buy, you should have at least the money set aside for 2 months of the subscription and 1 reset, in my opinion. Right, so there's no that stress of, gosh, I've got to do this in the 18 to 22 trading days that I have before my next monthly bill. If you have that mindset, you're setting yourself up to lose. Okay. Andrew with the great question there. Do you scale in or scale out, or both or none? I will scale out. I very often scale out of trades. I rarely scale in, but I like your terminology there. You're saying scale in rather than double down. For the NQ right now, my max position size is 3 minis. So there's one particular trade, a VWAP-based trade that I do that I will, if I'm not 100% sure on the entry, I will scale in, in thirds. But I almost always scale out on the winning side, right? Because one of the problems I had as a younger trader was I saw a little green on the screen. I wanted to grab it, right? So that throws my risk reward off. When I'm risking $500 on a trade, and as soon as I see $300 worth of profit, I got to grab it. All of a sudden, the percentage of winning percentage that I need to break even gets very, very skewed, right? So what I will do then is I will. I'm just going to give you an example. Okay, I have a trade. My RTT trade calls for a 1.5 ATR initial movement. So, we'll say 25 points, depending on the day. As soon as I get my first contract off there, I throw in a stop at break even on the other 2. And then I usually take the other contract off about 8 to 10 points higher if it's a long trade. And then I'm just going to see how far that last one goes, right? And most often I'll end up closing it somewhere between the first and second contracts, right? Sort of a midpoint. But every now and then, and today happened to be one of them, every now and then that last contract will run an additional 20 points, 25 points, 30 points, 50 points, right? So those are the types of things that can take a good trading day and make it a great trading day. My issue has been trading opposite of the trends when I get a signal for the opposite of the trend and end up losing. So Cordell, after the first half hour of the markets, I don't know why you would be trading long for the entire rest of the day, right? And without a good, strong rebound movement and a movement at least over VWAP, right? I'm pretty sure we never made it above VWAP today, maybe at the very end. Yeah, look, here's the white line there, guys, is the 9:30 New York Open. We never breached VWAP today. So, and especially when you're down here, like if you were trying to get long here, guys, or up here, you're catching the falling knife, right? Oh, I didn't even have my screen share on. I apologize. Right? So we never breached VWAP in the NQ today. ES was probably similar, but I don't want to speak without knowing. Yeah. We briefly touched it at 9 o'clock, and that was it. Okay, so honestly, guys, if at any point after the first 20 minutes you were going long, you were trying to outthink the room. You're trying to be the smartest person in a room that has a lot of very smart people in it. Yeah, exactly, not paying attention. It's me not following rules, just trying to get a couple quick handles. That's it. And you don't need me to say any more because you 100% hit the nail on the head there, right? All right, last question, guys. I thought we would find a reversal at areas of support, but it was risky with the bearish pressure. Yeah, again, I don't know. Like I said, after the first 15 to 30 minutes of the market, I don't know what you would be looking at that would tell you to go long, right? I don't know. You tell me. So, all right, guys. So we've had a lot to talk about today. It's been a day, to say the least. So, again, let me just kind of reaffirm what I said earlier. For those of you that are struggling a little bit, I promise you the juice is worth the squeeze when you continue to really make progress in your trading. Now, you have to be smart, right? You have to keep learning. You have to keep showing up to, like I said, this show, Mike's Trading in the Morning, some of the educational stuff that's on Blue Sky's website, some of the educational stuff that's on this YouTube page, excuse me, doesn't cost you a dime. All it costs you is a little of your time. And I thank you for giving me this half hour of your time today. Hope to see you back tomorrow. So have a great rest of your day. This is a wrap for another edition of Beyond the Bell. I will see you tomorrow.